recording, and I'll be sharing my screen. There you go. So we'll be dealing with the theme. So my face is not really that important here. Okay, so Module 10 is entitled Developing the Theme in Creative Nonfiction. Okay, I'm back as always. So developing the theme. So in your writing classes, since grade school, you have been trained to write essays within a theme. Okay, your teachers would probably give a theme, and then your writing activity would only revolve on that theme. Okay, if it's somewhat not related, of course, it depends on how your teachers will rate your written outputs. And also in your literature classes, you have been asked to find the theme of each work that you read. Okay, also in our literature classes, so you were also asked to, like, for example, find the theme of a particular reading material, especially short stories, novels, and etc. So some creative writers believed that the theme is the soul of a literary work. Okay, and it embodies the rational. When we say rational, it's how someone thinks. Emotional, of course. When you write something, your emotion or feeling should be in it. And spiritual principle of the author. Okay, so it depends. Like, for example, like me, I'm an Adventist. So what I will be sharing in my writing activity or in my output should also reflect me as an Adventist. Like, for example, I will be injecting our 28 fundamental beliefs, the things that we are doing in church or in other spiritual connected activities or relative activities. Okay, author, you are the author or others. So as a creative writer and a leisure reader, and as a would-be literary critic, you have to understand what theme is, what is not, and how to find and use it as a springboard for your work. So your understanding of what a theme is should be guided by what it is not. Okay, when we know already the theme, so we should also know things that are not contributory in understanding the theme. That's why here are some misconceptions about the literary theme that you have to keep in mind. When I say misconceptions, they are not really contributory. Okay, they misguide you understanding the theme. So misconceptions, it's not really the real theme. Okay, number one is the theme is not the topic or the subject matter, but the idea explored in a literary work. How's that? So it says in our book that the theme is not one word. It is a statement. The subjects love and patriotism are not examples of a literary work's theme. Although you may use these keywords to find or formulate the theme. Okay, so like for example, loved, okay, it's not really the theme. Okay, but when you say love conquers all, so that's already the theme. So you can, what do you call it, formulate the theme from the subject. Okay, let's have an example. Okay, what a grand thing it is to be loved. What a far grander thing it is to love. The heart becomes heroic by dint of passion. Okay, that's also already an example of theme being emphasized in Les Miserables by Victor Hugo. Okay, that's a theme. The second misconception is there is only one theme in every literary work. A literary work may have several minor themes. Okay, minor themes, several, there are many. They appear briefly and may lay the foundation to another minor theme. That is why the major theme, also called main theme or central idea, is the most important idea recurring in the whole narrative or emerging from a pattern or in a series of progression. The main theme takes the limelight of the minor themes or summarizes them. Okay, so the major theme summarizes all the minor themes. Okay, it is already the central idea. Like for example, when you are making an outline, it is the main thing, okay, or the main subtitle. Okay, but in the dotted or the dot, they are the minor themes. Okay, so that's the second misconception, that there is only one theme in every literary work. Third, the theme is mentioned in the literary work. So some instructional materials will teach you that the theme is mentioned either in the beginning or toward the end of literary work. That is always not so. The theme may be implied by the author. Okay, they believe that, oh, it's in the first paragraph. Oh, it's in the last paragraph. No, because sometimes the author make it a point that the theme that he or she injected in that particular written output or literary text is implied. When I say implied, it's all about you who will interpret what you have understood about a certain reading material. Okay, it is you. Okay, because it's implied means it's not, you cannot really tell that that is included in the literary text. So it's all about your understanding of what you have read. Okay, so that's the third misconception. Okay, the fourth one, the theme of a literary work is its moral lesson. Sometimes, right, when we read, oh, the theme, oh, it's the moral lesson, something like that. But it is not really the moral lesson, okay? So you may have been told that the theme is equivalent to moral and teaching. Okay, but mind you, fables have morals and parables have teachings. Okay, always remember that. That is why theme is different from morals and teachings, because for morals, they are for fables and teachings for parables. It was thought that all forms of children's literature mention the moral lesson at the end of the story. Okay, they believe that all children's literature means those reading really for elementary grades. They believe that the moral lessons are presented at the end of the story. So this notion was widely held in 18th century, influenced by the writings of John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who asserted that literature can be used to teach children. But this is not true across the board. For example, Aesop did not always state the moral of the story to wrap up his fables. So for John Locke and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, they believe that the moral of the lesson should be presented at the end. But for Aesop, he did not always state the moral of the story. Maybe one reason why he doesn't want to present it for the children to think, right? Because when you presented it all in one presentation, something like that, so they will not be thinking about the moral, okay? It's up to them to really formulate their own moral of the story. Number 5. So the theme is the purpose or the intention of the author. A literary work's theme is its primary purpose. Although authors may express or mention their purpose in writing their works with the theme and the purpose of the authors are not one and the same. Okay, so the purpose or intention are of the author are not the same with the theme. Your purpose for writing is the reason why you write. You may be writing for a particular subject matter or an interesting plot. You may be writing because you want people to learn about your past experience, a historical account, or a principle. You may be following a theme required for a creative writing class, a publication, or a contest. You may be writing because you just want to share an incident that happened to you in a person or to someone, or something that you have witnessed. Whatever your purpose for writing is, you may use it as a springboard for your theme. Okay, so you may use it. Okay, they are not really the main theme, but you can use it as a springboard in making your theme. It can also help you decide on what language and literary genre you will use to write. Okay, like for example, it is really for Filipino people. So maybe it's better to use Filipino. Or if you want your story to be published internationally, so you can use the lingua franca or the English. Okay, so that's number 5, misconception. Number 6 is the theme is the conflict of the narrative. You cannot just say that the theme of a literary work is person versus self or person versus nature. Also, the theme may describe the struggle of the protagonist. Protagonist means the main character. It does not automatically state the general view of the author. Remember that the protagonist is not always the speaker, the narrator or persona in a literary work. So erase. That should be erased in our minds that the theme is the conflict. No. Okay, that's the end of misconceptions. Let's move to this one. Now that you know how to do away with false impressions about the theme, you may take note of looking for the theme in a narrative. Here are things you have to consider. Okay, and looking for the theme, here are some things or factors to consider. Number 1 is to evaluate the title. So any author would say that choosing a title for a literary genre is not an easy job. Like for example, you have your written output or written activity. So it is really hard to think of a title. When you are really that, when you say creative or you have really the passion in writing, because when you are not really into writing, oh, you're just going to state there your own title, like it's just for the sake of requirements, something like that, right? We're doing like that every time. It's not really for, it's for the purpose of passing my requirements. Okay, that's the end. Okay, but for writers who are really into it, into this profession, they are really looking for a good title. So some authors think about the title first before making an outline or plot of the narrative. This will tell you that the title could be a hint on what the main theme is. The title could be the main theme in a nutshell, or the title could be the theme itself. Okay, sometimes the title would give us a prior knowledge of what the content of your written out or a literary work. Okay, because it may already be the theme, or it can give a hint to what the theme is. Second, read the first and last paragraphs. Okay, so we have tackled a while back that the theme should be in the first paragraph or at the end? Some authors will still write the old-fashioned way. They want to say old-fashioned way. You can really have the what is that? The theme at in the first paragraph or in the middle or at the end, something like that. They could be following the traditional concept, but they might also want to help out the readers, especially if their works are extensive or time-consuming, by summarizing the narrative into one sentence, the main theme. Find the thesis statement and you will discover the theme. Okay, let's consider this. Oh. Example by John Paulo Vicentius, 13-paragraph column article heads or tails. Corruption is not an inherent element in a society. It is planted and cultivated. It is a product of choices, our choices. Actually, there are also, okay, so that's an example. So corruption is not an inherent element in a society. It means that it's already included in the article or in the story. There is also a continuation in our book, and I haven't really added it to my presentation. So if you want to read the whole thing, so read your books. So number 3 is identify the plot and conflict. Okay, here it is. So we believe that by identifying the plot and conflict, we could trace the theme of a particular literary text. So you have learned that people sometimes mistake conflict for theme. The conflict of a narrative drives its structure. After reading the narrative, make a plot summary. This will help you flesh out the sequence of events. If the theme is not mentioned in the first or the last paragraph, you will find it somewhere in the plot. Okay, maybe in the middle, rising, or the following action. Especially if it's plot-driven narrative. Find the thesis statement. Okay, if it's plot-driven narrative, you can find the thesis statement and you will find the theme. The thesis statement may be implied. Okay, when you say implied, it's not, you cannot find it in the literary text, or mentioned by the speaker or in the dialogue at the exposition or the resolution of the narrative. You have also learned about changing the mood of the readers at the 2/3 of your story. The events that lead to the change of heart of the protagonist may imply the main theme. Okay, like for example, from being a monstrous like that, and the 2/3 of the story, he or she became really a generous, kind individual. Maybe that's the, you can find, or that's a hint of the theme of a certain story. Okay, number 4 is identify the characterization. Characterization helps in identifying the theme and thesis statement if the author wrote a character-driven narrative. Okay, when it is a character-driven narrative, so it can help us trace the theme of a certain story. While the events unfold and the characters take action, the author may bring up the main theme of the narrative there. Additionally, take note of the dialogues. The author may state the main theme anytime in the narrative. You have learned the importance of characterization in a narrative, sometimes to express your theme through the thoughts and words of your main character. It may come out in a pensive conversation or a heated argument of the characters. Okay, that can also help you find the theme, the characterization. Okay, I'm so sorry, I wasn't able to flash that. So we should take note of the dialogue. Sometimes you express your theme through the thoughts and words of your main character. Okay, and for number 5, identify the subject of the literary work. So when you have identified what the subject is the narrative about love, friendship, or family? It would be easier for you to find the theme. Okay, find first the subject, and afterwards you can find the theme. So there is an example here, Dateline, Caloocan, Horace Hall, and the PNR Station by Mark Angelist. Okay, so you can read that. Actually, it's a very, very, very good story. Okay, if you have the time, please read it on page 98 to 100. 6, identify the scene. Okay, how the scene was described is itself the visual theme of the narrative work. This technique is the mise en scene. Mise en scene means that one, how the scene was described is itself the visual theme of the narrative work. So this paragraph from Charles Dickens, A Tales of Two Cities, can serve as your guide on how to create the theme through the scene. So this is as an example. It was large, dark room, furnished in a funeral manner with a black horsehair and loaded with heavy dark tables. These had been oiled until the 2 candles on the table in the middle of the room were gloomily reflected on every leaf as if they were buried in deep graves of black mahogany, and no light to speak of could be expected from them until they were dug out. Okay, that is, what does it portrays or describes? It's all about, so what should be the theme? It's something about gloomy, sad, okay, or something about when one wants to have really wants to be alone, or you are in the verge of thinking really something for self-reflection. Okay, 7, look for repeating patterns and symbols. Symbolism may also suggest the theme. Example of it is the barrage of imagery that pertain to friendship, like a group of 5 taking turns to bite out of a red velvet cupcake, a collective of fist bumped. Oh, alam niyo na yung mga yan. A pinky promised. Okay, so those are examples. Symbolism. Late word steal or leading word style. Repeats word to drive a theme. So coined by Martin Buber and Franz Rosenwig, both Jewish philosophers. Okay, and translated, actually Martin and Franz translated the Hebrew Bible into German in the early part of the 20th century. How about the motif? Motif is established when literary devices and elements recur, while late word steal is a literary device using word or phrase patterns to signal significant ideas in a text. Okay, so we have this example. Another example is by using parallel universe or alternative realities to create sarcasm and humor. So read how Victor Gregor Limontied with a real and imagined short feature article, How the Lumad Reached Manila, an alternate universe. Okay, so it's up to you if you want to read the entire thing. Okay, I'll just read the first part. Entire communities of the Lumad have fled their ancestral lands to escape the scourge of the armed forces of the Philippines and their paramilitary cohorts. This week, more than 700 of them are in UP Diliman Solidarity Camp. Okay, the following is an alternative retelling. Okay, this is the. Okay, hope that we have understand what them is and how the misconceptions and how we could trace things. So 1 minute more and we're going to end this discussion. And thank you so much for attending our lesson for today, and please prepare for your midterm examination. Okay. I hope that we have a good time in sharing our discussion for today. And to those who weren't able to attend, so we have this video presentation. I will be uploading this video presentation later on. Okay, thank you so much for attending, and I hope that you all